Now let's turn to Ukraine, where President Zelensky has sacked all of the heads of military enlistment in each region right across the country. It follows corruption allegations. Kiev has been conscripting Ukrainians for its counteroffensive to recapture territory controlled by Moscow's troops. Let's take a listen to his announcement a little earlier.
We're dismissing all regional military commissars. This system should be run by people who know exactly what war is and why cynicism and bribery at a time of war is high treason. Instead, soldiers who have been through the front or who cannot be in the trenches because they have lost their health, lost their limbs, but have retained their dignity and have no cynicism, they can be entrusted with this recruitment system.
Well, let's go straight to Kiev and our correspondent James Wardhouse. James, that's quite a dramatic move from the president. Tell us a little more of the background to this.
Yeah, it's quite a clampdown, Matthew. 33 recruitment heads in every region of Ukraine are now out of a job, essentially, in this announcement that few expected. A couple of weeks ago, the recruitment head in the southern region of Odessa was even arrested. Now there is a bit of history here. There's a bit of a tension between these recruitment centres within the military itself, because the issue of mobilisation, where Ukraine is calling up and continues to call up thousands of men at a time for its continued war effort, it's a sensitive subject, and there have been issues around how that is done. Now, if you go on what the recruiters say, what the land forces say, they're responsible for it, they say the system needs more money, it needs modernising, and that they get a bad rep for doing the work of the military, and it seems that it's politically unpopular in the past for it to receive any kind of funding. And then we have this announcement from President Zelensky against a backdrop of pressure from Western allies to deal with corruption in Ukraine, something the country has always grappled with. But then there are also allegations from the men themselves who find themselves receiving draft papers. There are claims, certainly in Odessa, where, shall we say, heavy-handed tactics have been used, where there are allegations of men finding themselves on the front line with very little training. Now, of course, there are sizable proportions of the population who are motivated to volunteer and fight, but such is the nature of this war, there is a continued demand for troops to not just replace those who've been lost, who've been killed, but also to provide relief for those who've been fighting on the front line in some pretty unimaginable conditions for several months now. So this is quite the announcement, and it will have far-reaching consequences.
And James, meanwhile, there have been further Russian missile strikes to the west of the country. Tell me a little more about that.
Yeah, so leafy Ivano-Frankivska, this region in western Ukraine, when you head that way, the war for a while feels far away. It's somewhere that typically isn't targeted, but overnight, this morning, ballistic missiles were launched by Russian fighter jets. One was shot down, but one of those missiles landed in Ivano-Frankivska, where a military base, we're told, where Ukrainian fighters were being trained on Western F-16 jets, was targeted. A house, we're told, was hit, where an 8-year-old boy was killed. So this is somewhere which typically feels far away from the conflict, but it's a reminder how most of Ukraine is under threat. The southeastern city of Zaporizhia, even by the standards of this war, has had a miserable 72 hours where missiles have been hitting civilian buildings. Russia's claimed to be targeting military targets, as it does, but there really has been an increase where Ukraine's air defences have been tested.